The Wednesday welcoming address is presented by New York State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli. Since first taking office in February 2007, he has instilled reforms to make government more effective, efficient, and ethical. He has pushed for increased transparency and accountability in government and identified billions of dollars in savings. Comptroller DiNapoli is a leading advocate for public pensions in New York and throughout the country. Please welcome Comptroller Tom DiNapoli.
Thank you, Tina Fassendine, your secretary. We were practicing pronunciations of each other's name. Tina did a great job with my Italian name. Give her a round of applause. Thank you, Tina, very, very much. It's great to be with all of you. It's great to be with Hank Kim, one of the leading voices on the pension issue I've learned so much from over the years. Thank you, Hank, for your continued leadership of NCPERS. It's great to see some of my New York friends here, especially Mel Aronson, one of your past presidents, and he certainly always encourages me to participate whenever you have an event going on here in New York. I certainly welcome everyone, especially those of you who have come from out of state. I hope you've had a good time being in New York, and I hope you spent a lot of money when you've been outside of the conference. We need the tax revenue, so glad you could be here. And I certainly want to thank NCPERS for extending an invitation for me to spend a few moments with you this morning and to address you. I salute NCPERS for your work to promote and protect pensions by focusing on advocacy, research, and education. You continue to provide a critical voice for public sector pension stakeholders, and I applaud you for your ongoing efforts during these uncertain times. No doubt being a trustee or administrator of a public pension fund is as challenging as it's ever been. Most of our New York State retiree members, like yours, rely on a relatively modest pension as an essential economic lifeline. Here in New York, our average pension is about $23,000 a year. And by New York standards, that is a modest amount of money, but it's often the difference between continuing to live in a high-cost state like New York versus having to move away. That's why the responsibility we hold is so important to get right. When I became our state controller, the office had quite a distance to travel to fully uphold our responsibility with regard to the pension fund. Although this is an elective office, I began by being appointed by the state legislature because of a vacancy in the office. I was the new person assuming control at a time of, quite frankly, a roiling scandal that was happening in the office. Corruption and influence peddling related to the management of the pension fund devastated the reputation of our office and, in fact, led to my predecessor's imprisonment. One thing was clear: I had to fundamentally change the environment in the office and set the highest possible bar for integrity and accountability, particularly with regard to pension fund management. Over the past few years, substantive changes to our fund's management have strengthened the fund, putting more eyes and more scrutiny on the investment transactions we make. These key reforms and others have transformed our office with regard to pension fund management into a better, more accountable organization, one up to the task of protecting and sustaining the retirement benefits of the 1.1 million members of our system for the long term. Today, because of these changes, I believe our office is a model in transparency and in system integrity. And the good news is we're getting improved results. The pension fund is stronger than ever in our history. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to be announcing our final year-end value, and it's going to be over $206 billion, an historic high for a year-end number. Just last month, Pew Charitable Trust Public Policy Foundation listed New York as one of only 4 state pension systems in the nation that is over 90% funded. We're very, very proud of that. That's good news for the members of our system, but it's also good for all of the people and taxpayers of New York State, because when you have a well-funded pension, there are other benefits to the finances of the state. Fitch, Moody's, Standard & Poor's have upgraded our state's general obligation bond rating, citing as one of the main reasons we have a well-funded state pension plan. It's proof that you can do it the right way and achieve sound results. Part of the way we've achieved strong results over the years is through our commitment to some of the areas that you have been focusing on during this conference. Apart from our delicately balanced allocations, including running a large domestic high-grade fixed income portfolio while pursuing newer initiatives like non-core fixed income and growing opportunistic and real asset allocations, we've also made one of the strongest commitments in the nation to providing opportunities to emerging managers and women and minority-owned investment firms. We're up to about $14 billion in total, $4 billion allocated just over the last year. And our corporate engagement program, our Doing Good and Doing Well program, is one of the most active in the United States. This effort takes several different forms. We write letters and directly engage with companies to request changes to policy. We file shareholder resolutions to be voted on at companies' annual meetings. We advocate for public policy at the state, federal, and international levels. We file litigation. We vote at our portfolio company meetings to directly influence corporate action, and we publicly withhold votes for selective directors. Our strategic focus on sustainability, accountability, and diversity has led us to engage companies on issues ranging from disclosure of corporate political spending to executive compensation, to prohibition of discrimination based on sexual orientation, to worker rights and safety here in the United States and around the globe, to mitigation of climate risks and board of director diversity, just to name a few. In the last 5 years, the fund's shareholder resolutions alone have resulted in more than 100 portfolio companies improving their corporate ESG policies and practices, environmental, social, and governance. Like you, I work each day to protect and sustain our fund to ensure strong, secure retirements for our members. But as you well know, public retirement systems continue to be under siege around this nation. As a result of budgetary pressures on state and local governments, and despite the strength of many state funds, efforts to reform or restructure state pension plans have continued across America since the end of the Great Recession in 2009. As justification for many of these assaults on state and local pensions, we have seen a concerted effort to portray defined benefit public pensions as drains on America's economy. We know that the facts overwhelmingly suggest the opposite, that public pensions are an important investment in our nation's economic health. There is no doubt that the money spent by retirees collecting public pensions and workers who have confidence they will receive a pension in the future has a stabilizing impact on the economy. A recent study by the National Institute on Retirement Security showed that defined benefit pension plans stimulate $1.2 trillion in economic output across the country. NCPERS found that here in New York State alone, 215,000 jobs were supported by state and local pensions, driving $35.3 billion in total economic output and resulting in $8.1 billion in federal, state, and local tax revenues. My office's recent work analyzing the benefit to New York State's economy from retirees just from our state system alone found very similar results. The opposite is also true. As NCPERS' recent study on the dismantling of public pensions notes, if dismantling of public pensions continues, the economy will suffer $3.3 trillion in damage by the year 2025. That same study also makes a key point on the cost effectiveness of public pensions today compared to the past. In 2015, $3 out of every $4 of pension fund revenues in America came from investment earnings, compared to $1 out of every $4 back in 1940. We must amplify these facts and use them to push back against efforts to undermine defined benefit pension systems. While the efforts to undercut retirement security for public sector workers is troubling, even more distressing is what's happening to many workers in the private sector. I don't have to tell you that too many of our friends and neighbors in the private sector don't have the pensions they had in the old days. Many have no retirement savings vehicle whatsoever. According to the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College, the number of private sector employees and large and medium-sized businesses who participated in a defined benefit pension plan declined from 62% in 1983 to just 17% in 2013. and fewer companies offer employer-sponsored 401k plans. As a result of this erosion in pensions, a rapidly growing number of Americans are at risk of retiring with a substantially lower standard of living or not retiring at all. And the statistics, and you're familiar with them, are sobering. Americans face a staggering national retirement savings shortfall of between $6.8 and $14 trillion, depending on household assets. A new study by the National Institute on Retirement Security in February found that 66% of today's millennials, 21 to 32 years old, have zero invested for retirement. The median retirement account balance is $3,000 for all working-age households and $12,000 for near-retirement households. That leaves us with Social Security. Nearly 9 out of 10 individuals aged 65 and older, an estimated 173 million workers, are covered under Social Security, and the annual benefit averages just a little over $1,400 a month. When we talk about the impact of being under-retired or retirement poor, we must think beyond the individual devastation to individuals and families and understand how it affects our state and national economies. It's fair to say that older citizens who are more impoverished, who can't afford basic necessities, who don't spend money in their communities, and who rely on government assistance to get by is not a recipe for economic success for any state or for our nation. It's very clear this retirement crisis isn't going away. In fact, it's going to get worse over the next few decades as more people live longer and need considerably more retirement savings to live on. A recent study found that the number of Americans living past age 90 will grow from 1.9 million today to more than 9 million by 2050. The bottom line is a rapidly growing number of Americans are at risk of retiring with a substantially lower standard of living or not retiring at all. We've already seen a number of efforts on both the national and state level to address this issue, including NCPERS Secure Choice Plan, and I credit Hank for introducing me to that plan a number of years ago, the MyRRA, which President Obama unveiled, which, as you know, was ended by the current administration. In the absence of a national effort, the Secure Choice pension model, first proposed by this organization back in 2011, has been the basis for a number of state and local initiatives designed to help private sector workers boost their savings through payroll deductions. In fact, New York State, just as part of this recent budget process, passed legislation to create a retirement savings program based on the overall concept of secure choice using a Roth IRA approach. New York's newly established Secure Choice Savings Program will provide a voluntary state-administered retirement savings plan for employees of private sector companies and nonprofit organizations that do not provide federally qualified retirement plans. While these state efforts are important, I believe that a retirement security crisis of this magnitude cries out for a national strategy that would provide greater resources for a secure retirement than states are able to commit to in their own state plans. The overwhelming majority of Americans understand how important this issue is. According to a 2017 NCPERS report, 86% say leaders in Washington need to give a higher priority to ensuring that Americans have a secure retirement. Just this past Monday, I joined with some of you here in the city at the kickoff event for the Economic Policy Institute's National Retirement Security Project, which aims to organize, educate, and advocate for a universal workplace retirement system. The focus of EPI's project is to achieve a national retirement program. I believe EPI's focus on guaranteed retirement accounts is a smart path forward. GRAs are designed to be secure, portable across state lines, and available to meet changing workforce needs. They would provide a monthly paycheck throughout retirement to supplement Social Security. To me, a national solution with pooled assets professionally managed is the best approach. It would provide ease of administration and shared responsibility among workers and employers. The bottom line to me is clear. We need to act. Failure to act now will make the problem worse for baby boomers and other future retirees and will leave a significant financial burden to future taxpayers. We do well to remember our history. The New York experience is particularly instructive. 100 years ago, a transformative New York leader, Governor Al Smith, signed a law that established a state commission on pensions to look into the creation of a pension fund for state and municipal workers. In 1920, as directed, the commission issued their report on, in their words, the problem of retirement. The problem they were referring to was dire. In 1920 New York, more than half of public employees didn't get a nickel in retirement. Far too many fell into desperate poverty. The commission recommended a pension plan for all public employees to ensure that retirees would not be poor in old age. And in 1920, legislation creating the New York State retirement system was passed, taking effect in 1921. Sadly, today, millions of Americans face the new problem of retirement that is undermining individual security and this nation's economic stability. For our people, for our economy, and for America's future, we must ensure retirement security for all. And those of us in this room who understand this issue better than most must continue to be the leading voices in this national debate. Again, I want to applaud each and every one of you for the work you do each day and for your efforts as part of NCPERS to advocate and educate the public about the importance of retirement security, individually and to our nation as a whole. As trustees, administrators, and investment professionals, all of us in this room share a critical responsibility. Millions of Americans count on us to protect their hard-earned retirements. And against a confluence of economic, social, and political pressures, we continue to do just that. Rest assured, as a colleague of yours and as the comptroller of the state of New York and trustee of our state pension fund, I'll join you in continuing to sound the call, very much in partnership with you, for state and national policies that strengthen retirement security for all Americans. I wish you well with your important work. I hope you have a successful conclusion to this conference, and Hank, keep me informed on how I can work with you and advance this agenda. Keep up the great work.